Hello everyone, thank you for checking out today's video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chris. We talk all about koi ponds and water gardens and everything that goes along with it. I have a ton of videos here for you guys, and it's all broken down into different playlists here on my channel to help you find your way around and find the videos that you're looking for a little bit easier. So we talk about everything from design, construction, to pond filtration, aquatic plants, fish, troubleshooting, problem solving, maintenance issues, as well as some product reviews as well. So lots of good stuff here. Hopefully you can find something that can help you out, answer some questions, and make your pond keeping experience a little more enjoyable. So today we are talking about quarantine tanks, or hospital tanks as they might be called. We're going to talk about what they are, how to use them, why to use them, and really just dive into this whole subject. So basically, a quarantine tank or a hospital tank is something that we're going to use typically to either isolate a sick fish out of your pond, or even to put new fish in that we just purchased to treat them and make sure that they are safe and free of any kind of parasites or bacteria before we add them into our pond with all our other fish. So those are the two basic reasons that I would stress mostly for the use of a quarantine tank. Now, I have to say I have a ton of clients, and I don't think I could really name you one person that has a quarantine tank ready just in case they need it. Only most likely you're really good big pond enthusiasts, hobbyists will probably practice using a quarantine tank more than anyone else. That's not to say that they're not important. It's not to say that you shouldn't have one, and you should know how to use one. So we're going to dive into all this kind of stuff today and help you understand what, how, and when, and why. All right. So now, most commonly, if you have a fish in your pond that is sick. Okay, now there's a number of things that it could be, right? And sometimes it's not going to be one fish in your pond that's sick. If you have a water quality issue, it's going to affect all the fish in your pond, right? If you have a parasite in your pond, it's probably going to be on many of your fish, okay, not just one, all right? If you have, ick or Costia trichodina or something, a protozoan parasite, fish lice, anchor worms, gill flukes, stuff like that, it's probably not just going to be on one of your fish, okay? These parasites lay eggs. The eggs are waterborne. They find a host. They attach to the host. So it's most likely that many of your fish are going to have this issue. And in that case, we're going to need to treat the entire pond. However, sometimes there are instances where a fish might get injured, perhaps from a heron, trying to stab at it or eat it. Perhaps it scrapes against the rocks and gets a bad cut when they're laying their eggs. There's several different reasons, right? Where we have now one fish that's injured or sick in the pond, and we need to treat it and take care of it. In that instance, we don't need to treat the entire pond, right? We just need to treat that one fish. It's like if a kid in the classroom in school is sick, right? We keep the one kid out of school. We keep him home and give him medicine, right? We don't treat the entire class if one kid, is sick, right? So that's what this quarantine tank does. We're going to set up a little system where we can put that one sick fish in and medicate him and treat him and hopefully, bring him back to health and then finally return him back to the main pond. Another instance where quarantine tanks are really a great practice is if you have a pond established with a bunch of beautiful fish in it, nice fish, and you go to the store and you want to buy more fish. Whatever kind of store you go to, okay, I don't care where it is, you should always put those fish that you purchase, newly purchased fish, into a quarantine tank first for a couple weeks before you put them into your pond, because we never know what we're bringing in with it, okay? Just because you bought a grade A select super special Japanese koi for $800 or whatever, $3,000, all right, doesn't mean that that fish isn't carrying with it some sort of pathogen that could not only affect it, but affect all the other fish in your pond. So many good koi retailers and stuff will buy fish from reputable sources that do medicate their fish and treat their fish so that once they're sold, they are, hopefully clean of any kind of bacterias or parasites. However, you never know, all right? And in the transportation of all these fish between, the koi farms, where they're raising these fish, to the shipments, to the shippers, to the retailers, to the stores, all that transportation, fish are going to get stressed. When they get stressed, their immune systems drop, and they are more susceptible to different types of pathogens, different bacteria and parasites and all that fun stuff. So we need to make sure that when we get our fish, that they're clean and healthy before we put them into the pond. All right. So those are basically two main reasons why we would want to have a quarantine tank. Now, setting up a quarantine tank, it can be several different ways. Okay. Basically, you need a tub. We would suggest something, maybe 100 gallons, depending on the size of your fish. Okay, if you're putting a fish this big, you're going to want a bigger tank, right? If you've got a little fish like this, well, yeah, you don't need a 500-gallon tank for that, right? But something smaller, a smaller tank. If you've got many fish, again, size of the tank is going to matter. But I would say start with nothing less than like a 100-gallon tank, okay? And that tank should be covered so that the fish don't jump out, or the fish is safe from predators. And it should also have some sort of a something in it that the fish can kind of hide in. The idea of this whole quarantine tank, whether the fish are new, a new purchase, or they're sick and they're being treated, is we want to relieve the stress on these fish. Okay, we want these fish to be comfortable and relaxed, so that their immune systems can fight off any kind of infection, the parasites, bacteria, whatever they're fighting, or if they've been transported, they're new fish. We want that their immune systems to build up and less stress on the fish, and get healthier quicker. Okay. So having something in the tank that they can kind of hide in, whether it's a large PVC pipe, maybe a flower pot turned on its side or something that it can go into. They have these little thing called koi castles. It's basically like a little aluminum frame that's kind of like a cave, with like a mesh covering over it that they can swim inside of. Something like that also helps. So we need a nice sized tank, adequate for what we're putting in it, the type of fish and how many we're putting in it, the size of the fish. We need some sort of cover for them, is a great idea to hide in and again reduce stress. We need a cover for the tank that will keep them from jumping out or predators from getting in. We need a very good aeration system, all right? We want an air pump in this thing to really agitate that water. We want a lot of oxygen in the water. Perhaps a a heater, okay, a small heater. We want to keep the water a little bit warmer, at least in the mid 70s. The reason for that is if we have parasites on the fish, their life cycle is sped up a little bit in warmer water. So we need to kill those parasites in different stages of their life cycle, okay, so that they not regenerate and or reproduce and reinfect the host. So by increasing the temperature in the water, we increase the life cycle, the speed of the life cycle, so we can treat things a little bit quicker in warmer water. And again, it's also a little less stressful on the fish. Okay, if it's really cold water, the fish metabolism is going to slow down. We don't want it to slow down. We want it to be in full force to fight whatever infections or whatever we're trying to do here. So possibly a heater, aeration. Now, a filtration system on it is a great idea. However, the problem is with setting up a small filter on these things is that it needs to be cycled before we add our fish. So what do we mean by cycled? It means that we need to have a bed of nitrifying bacteria as a biological filter source to absorb any kind of ammonia and nitrates that may be generated by the fish in the holding tank. That takes time to build up. So if we set up our tank today, we fill it up with water, we put our fish into it, and we set up a filter, our filters are pretty much going to be useless. It may clean some solids out of the water, but it's not going to do its biological component, which is to eliminate ammonia and nitrites. Now, if you're new to ponds and you don't understand what's called the nitrogen cycle and biological filtration, please check out my videos here all about that, because it's definitely going to help you out, and you really should understand how all that works. But anyway, okay, so we need to get a filter that is already seeded with bacteria. So the best way to do that is basically if we can take some filter media out of our existing pond and place it into our filter for the quarantine tank, that will help to basically seed our biological bacteria, right, that we need, our nitrifying bacteria that we need to produce this biological filtration to eliminate the ammonia and nitrites and stuff, toxic levels in our pond, in our quarantine tank. All right, so just realize that if you're setting up a filter in a quarantine tank, it's pretty much going to be useless unless it's already seeded with bacteria. All right, so keep that in mind. For me, honestly, I've set up some quarantine tanks. I find that rather than waiting for a couple weeks for a filter to possibly cycle, I just keep up with water changes. Now, water changes are very possible to do, in certain conditions. But if we are treating the fish with different, with salt, with chemicals, with whatever we need to do, depending on our situation, we can't be changing the water every 2-3 days because we're flushing out all of our medications, all of our salt. Salt levels are easy to keep because if I just have to pump some water out, I do have a little salt meter, tester, meter that, if I pump water out and I'm adding new water, I can always use my meter and set my salt levels appropriately again after I put in the fresh water. Okay, so that's easy to do. Sometimes that's a little more efficient and easier to maintain just doing that, but make sure you get yourself a good salt meter. I'm going to be doing a video here really soon on a salt meter, and I'll tell you all about it and how to use it. But do that, and then water changes are easier sometimes than setting up a whole filtration system for 2 weeks that you're going to keep the fish in there, which we recommend. Now, if you're bringing in new fish into your pond and you just want to quarantine them to make sure that they're free of any parasites and bacteria before you put them into your existing pond. You know, a 2-week quarantine period for them is usually sufficient, and that equates with the life cycles of certain parasites and stuff too, right? So after 2 weeks, if we don't have any sign of parasites or any more bacterial infections in the fish, things should be pretty safe to put your fish back into the pond. Okay, so, all right, so setting up our quarantine tank. We need the tank, we need a cover, we need something inside the fish to protect them, they can hide in and feel safe in. We need a aeration system that's vigorous, a really nice air pump. No, we just don't want a couple little bubbles. We need it aerated and agitated. And possibly a filter system, or possibly not if you're able to do water changes if you're not using medications, okay? Now, all this stuff sounds pretty complicated. It's not. It just takes a little effort, okay? And, you know, believe me, it's well worth the effort. If you're buying new fish and you know, you can have, you know, 20 fish in your pond that can be very valuable, worth a lot of money, you spent a lot of money on, and you can go to the store and buy a little fish for, you know, $10, and that little fish, you throw them in your pond, and it could end up killing half of your fish, all right? At that point, what you've lost, the headache, the aggravation, right, and just losing your fish, I mean, they're like pets, right? You don't want them to die. It's definitely worth the investment to set up a quarantine tank, okay, and go through this little bit of extra effort to make sure things are safe. Believe me, it happens a lot when you buy plants or fish from, you know, a fish store, a pond shop, a garden center. You never know what you're bringing in with it, okay? There's always a risk with that. Okay, so let's look at a couple quarantine tanks, all right? There's many things on the market. There's many things you can do. I suggest something, like I said, at least around 100 gallons, okay? I mean, we're dealing with pond fish. We're not dealing with little minnows. We're dealing with some, you know, bigger fish here. I have a couple tanks right here. Actually, I just bought these two to replace 2 tanks that I use in my business. I use them a lot to put fish in when I'm draining and cleaning ponds, and occasionally, you know, we can use them as a holding tank, isolation tank, a quarantine tank as well. Okay, so I have 2 tanks here that I just got, so that's why I wanted to do this video as well. These look small, okay, and they're small little things here, okay. This tank here is 3 foot in diameter. It opens up, okay, you can see the pictures behind me. 3 foot in diameter, it's like 2 feet deep, all right. This one here is 6 foot in diameter and like 2 feet deep. And these are really nice because they actually have a mesh netting on the top that has a zipper, and it zippers sealed closed on top. So really, really nice, okay? So again, if you just have some smaller fish and you want to get a quarantine tank, look at this little thing right here. You can just store this on the shelf in the garage, in your shed. It takes up no room, right? It was, I don't remember what this was, maybe $129, something like that. I'll put a couple little links here on this description of the video to my Amazon page on my website where you can purchase these if you're interested. These are really great tanks. It's a nylon tank, okay? It does come with some little like fiberglass legs to help hold it all together, but they last. And they're really easy to use, and they fold right back up into these bags. The bag is a little zipper here on the top. Okay, it opens up. You can see the little mesh netting here, and the whole tank is all folded into this little thing. Really, really easy, all right? Great to use. So I'll have all those links here if you're interested in that. You can go on my website, on my page. I have an Amazon links here for them, and they're really easy. I think I want to say this one was like $129, I believe, $139, something in that ballpark, and this one was maybe a little over 200 for a nice sized 6-foot tank. Okay, so that's that. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, set them up, leave them for about 2 weeks. They're fish in there for about 2 weeks, depending on, just what's going on, what you need to treat. I'm not going to get into every specific kind of bacterial and parasite and chemicals and what you need for all that, because I'll be here for 3 hours. But you can find out other information on that online, if you have a specific problem. I do have videos here on my channel about parasites and stuff like that, so you can get some information that way. But yeah, quarantine tanks are great to get into and have. You never know when you might need it. It certainly does help to keep your pond and your fish safe, and for treating fish that may be sick. Okay, it's a lot easier to catch a fish in a tank than it is in a pond. So if you have a larger pond, you have a sick fish, you need to treat that fish with something. To have to chase him and try to catch him in your pond every day is really hard. If you put him in this little tank, he's right there, he's easy to catch. You can apply any kind of medication, treatment, whatever you need to do really easily here in a quarantine tank. Now, one other thing I want to mention to you just quickly here while we're talking about aeration and I'm thinking about it, medications. If you have a fish that's sick and stressed and we are treating it here in these tanks, I'm really not thrilled with a lot of these pond water conditioner products, some dechlorinators. That's something else that you should always have, dechlorinator. Sodium thiosulfate. Please check out my video here on sodium thiosulfate. If you don't know what that is, watch this video. It's going to save you a ton of money. And anyway, dechlorinator. But a lot of these products contain, like, I want to say aloe or different things like a slime coat, right? Adds a protective coating onto your fish. Okay, if your fish are sick, if they're stressed, all right, if they're, you have them in a quarantine tank, they've been shipped, transported, whatever's going on, adding a slime coat into the water may do more harm than good, simply because this coating will cover their gills, which kind of inhibits their ability to take in oxygen, thus stressing them even more. Okay, so we recommend salt. Salt is an amazing product. Watch my video on salt too. Okay, salt is great for treating fish for so many different things, and as a water conditioner. Salt will cause your fish to secrete their natural slime coat, which is 10 times better than any kind of slimy coating that some chemical product is going to put on them. Because their natural slime coat contains all kinds of antibodies, right, which help fight infections, heal wounds, protect them from parasites and bacteria and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to use salt mostly for many different reasons. Check out my video on that, but try to stick away from all those products that add, a slime coat to your fish, because it ends up coating their gills, which, definitely affects their ability to take in oxygen. Make sure we have a dechlorinator. If you have city water, you need to add that in your tank if you're doing water changes, or you should have that all the time anyway. And always have a test kit. Test that pH in your quarantine tank. Test your ammonia levels in that quarantine tank. You got to know what's going on in there, right? You need healthy, safe water to make a fish healthy. Okay, so definitely, please, those are really important parts of quarantining. All right. So, yeah, I think that should wrap it all up here. I hope you got some good information there and you understand what what the quarantine is and why to do it and how to do it, what you need, right? A decent filter if you need a filter system, or do water changes regularly. Aeration, a place to hide, some cover, a cover on the tank, and aeration definitely. All right, I got to really stress that. Possibly a heater if it's a colder time of year, if the water's cold and we need to increase the water temperature a little bit to speed up the recovery. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it helped you out and gave you some good ideas and tips. I know not many people have a quarantine tank. It's not a common practice, but believe me, it can really, really be something good to have. It can help you out, make your life a lot easier. Instead of, half your fish in your pond dying, things can be treated and taken care of a lot easier. All right? Thank you very much for watching. Please hit that little thumbs up, the like button, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate your support. Check out my website. I have a website at pondscapesandmore.com where we have all kinds of information on ponds, photos, pictures, videos, the whole bit, different products, links, and all kinds of fun stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you back soon. Take care, have a great day, and enjoy your pond. Bye.